have information about this. They know in a way what is going on. And the question is, if I remember correctly, I think the Vatican was rebuilt at some point into the what it is today. Do you have any background information on that at all? Who rebuilt it? Do you know?
I couldn't find anything directly on that, but I can assure you it's the archives, the famous Vatican archives, are holding a whole lot of sensitive materials that people don't like talking about. I can only guess what they're holding. People have speculated that they've got the Grail, they've got a whole lot of things, but who knows? But I would guess that this sort of star pattern is pretty common in ancient times and didn't fit in with general, God-fearing people, that they were building up this law system where they could control people. If you look at our old civilizations, I don't even know how you can use the word civilized, when you think of how our ancestors treated each other, and basically they manipulated it to a God-fearing nation, and things that show that we are divine as well, that we are the same lineage as angels. Can you imagine the chaos that would cause? No slavery, no warfare. It would put a stop to everything. So I think it was quite a good reason to bury it if you wanted to go out and conquer.
Yeah, that's probably it. You're right, and it's kind of a strange thing also, if you because I'm having kind of a trouble getting that the pieces together in that way in my head. If you think about that, many of these institutions that has been so instrumental in suppressing, as it were, the human race, yet use these kind of symbols in a way that speak of a greater past, perhaps. Then
I think it might be something, if you can imagine putting yourself into their position, and let's say the new Pope, for example, has been shown the archive and the great secrets, and how would one release something like this? It's kind of showing that they've kept it away all this time. That's a big embarrassment, number one. Number two, what will it do to people that have a lot of faith in the church and the religion, and, wouldn't it destroy a lot of that? There's more damage to be done with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think what will make it good in the future is to show somehow, and it's going to be probably a long time in the future, where these things are real, that what's on Mars is real, because we've got some kind of tangible evidence, or visitors, or who knows what, but we can show that what they were trying to teach us was good. What the fundamentals of all religions have in common, there's a link. For example, the biblical tree of life, it seems quite... as a common foundation in a lot of religions. It's this core of the universe, creation. And bring all that out as well to cover up, the worries and the doubts and that sort of thing. Something wonderful and measurable and touchable. And there it is, there is a God, there is a meaning to our lives. Then it would work. But to bring it out now as an old manuscript and show that it could mean, like what I'm doing in my research as a crazy author, people will say, they can take me with a pinch of salt, but they won't take a document from the Vatican with a pinch of salt. I promise you, it'll do harm. I'd be one of those people that would say, don't release it until we can prove a lot of this stuff. That shows you, they've probably all felt the same thing.
Really?
What would you think? Would you think it would be good to release it?
In one way, yeah. I mean, just because of the interest and because of the fact that we have to.
But I think of your family. Just take your own family. And just how many members of your family are religious?
Actually, none, as far as I know.
No, the wrong person. But if you imagine religious people, and believe me, to see something that you've always believed in. This is strange about the human nature. We have a habit of belief. To see, after all the years of believing in something, that something's different or wrong or has another way to be interpreted, the feeling inside one's emotional body is quite threatening, quite destroying, quite almost depressing. But, you've been wrong. And, gosh, now this new stuff must be something in disguise. And, of course, I've heard this a lot as well, that the moment if these visitors came down from the sky again, I can imagine if they look adorned in nice clothing, kind, gentle people, I can imagine a million staunch religious people pointing at it and saying, Satan, this guy. Shoot him, kill them, destroy them.
I mean,
do you think that will happen?
For me, of course, it's a more of a philosophical question to the fact of I can compare it to like in the in the Matrix, is it the red pill or the blue pill? Do you want to live in a in a lie, or do you actually want to know, even though follow? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Follow the truth, wherever it might lead, and we'll go from there. I mean, if people are, I mean, I think in a way, I think that kind of protection in a way is actually something that keeping humanity from actually reaching to the levels that are our potential, and potentially that even might be a reason for why we have such a violent temper and all this. I don't know. I mean, first of all, we have to figure out where the heck we come from. Maybe not what we're doing here. That's more a difficult question, but at least know what we're coming from and have a sense of origin. I think that in itself would imply a lot of security. I don't know.
It's true. That's true. It's just a way that it needs to present itself, and I'm pretty sure maybe even all these secret societies, religions, head bodies are waiting for a time where it would be right, where it would be guaranteed that it's not going to cause chaos.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the Eastern religions would think of it, because they're more staunch than Western religion, and how emotional would they feel? Just for example, if the people that came out of the sky were more fair-skinned rather than basically the Egyptian-looking lineage, and that's quite sad that they would see that it looks different to them. I'm just using an example.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you now they wouldn't accept it as being something good.
Really?
I'm sure there's so much sensitivity here. You know what I mean? It's. I don't think it's a way of presenting itself easily. So,
sheesh.
I can understand cover-up. I really and honestly can.
Really? Sheesh. I mean, it's a very interesting point, so don't get me wrong, but in a way it's like, what the heck, it is what it is. I mean, what can we do about it? Things in the universe,
exactly.
Align themselves as the way they align themselves. What we can do nothing about that, right?
I think it would cause more chaos. I really do. Until there's a way of presenting itself more can't use the word methodically.
Methodically.
With a method. Okay, let's just say that. It's something that is so dangerous. It would be such an emotional time of our civilization. We're at a point where we've overpopulated this earth, and we will pick up a gun in an instant. We will die in an instant just for belief. What does that tell you? We're on the edge of chaos, and it's a very temperamental situation.
Yeah.
I'd honestly like to see more proof before there is a release, and I think we're actually being provided with it. To be quite honest, stuff like what I'm doing, my research, it's only a small part of. I think other people are doing the same thing, and also finding pieces of the puzzle that will present together and see reason, logic, and purity in what has really happened with our past. And I can assure you it'll take 30 years before we accept it. It's a slow process.
Yeah, and I think that actually this is coming then potentially in, if we, consider the fact that there is a lot of research out there and a lot of people interested in the origins of humanity, and people are beginning to take into account the astro-theological aspect, and people are more, in tune to look at the sky as the source for all of this and so forth. But I think that it's coming from a very good source, meaning that it's coming from a kind of a, what do you call it, a grassroots level kind of thing, that this is an undercurrent. This isn't like a big authority coming in and saying that, okay, this is the new truth now, accept this, or, whatever.
I'm pretty sure if you look back at your ancient writings, you'll see that it fits. That's what I would pretty much guarantee, that, that basically heavenly visitors, they were them. They came down, they tried to teach us. There it is there. They came with a gentle nature rather than warlike nature. They'll probably see that too. They'll see as well the patterns and symbols that they give us if they do come. Would be pretty much something we've seen in our history. It would start adapting to, going back and looking in the old writings and seeing that, this is us. These are our ancestors, and the human design is something universal. It's not just, we appeared like these creatures in this part of the universe. It's quite likely that the design comes from a nucleus in the universe, and it's radiating out with energy, forms and planets like it everywhere.
Yeah.
There's another thing I want to mention. We've got these 3 stars in our star map here. SETI, or the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, a radio signal. You know what? If they could just change their protocol, they use a different process, which I think is going off the track a bit. They look in the quite spectrum of radio waves with this little noise, and expecting people out there in the universe to be contacting us and sending out a message to us. I mean, just to think like it frustrates me. Why would they even bother? So that's based on that thinking. What we should be doing is looking in the noisy part of the spectrum where most common radio frequencies are, and look for a little bit more than the hiss. Something in there that sounds like a telex or a radio signal, TV signal, or some kind of intelligent signal with amplifiers, with filters, and I tell you what, we'd find something aiming for one of these 3 stars that we have in our picture here. I'd bet money on it. If I had enough to bet, I'm still a struggling author. Time will come. I would put good money on a bet that they'll find something with one of those 3.
That's very interesting, and as you say, they're finding more and more planets all the time around, stars that are out there.
Sure.
And you, by the way, you were in. I can't remember if we talked about this last time you were on the show, but you did some correspondence with Seth Shostak, I think it's called, from SETI back in 2000. Yeah.
Very disappointing account, I'm afraid. I thought he was a scientist, open-minded, and would at least look at probabilities. The first reaction was, number one, sorry, Wayne, we don't take historical theory as science. And I said, well, you're looking for aliens, for heaven's sakes, Let's speak general theory, not just historical theory and trying to put a label on it. Look at probability of statistics, that this pattern is, in ancient civilizations is not just common. Why not just point your radio telescope there and see what you get?
Yeah.
And the second thing I asked him was, have they measured that area with the current radio pattern that they're looking for and a quiet frequency? And the answer was 0. They haven't got a path showing on those 3 stars that have been. In other words, they haven't measured anything on those 3 stars yet.
Yeah.
Which to me is exciting because it's not like it's been done and there was nothing. They should be have a little bit of interest and just test it, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'd rather just forget about it. Which makes you wonder, have they found something? Are they trying to hide it? Or
yeah,
probably
exactly.
not. Well, probably they just don't like the UFO people. They're trying, look at themselves as scientists doing a serious research. And what can you say? I get very frustrated because how hard is it to do the test? Just do the test.
Yeah, exactly. But as you say, it's a science, a close-minded scientist. That's what a lot of these guys are, and in a way, I think that it's more about kind of keeping the attention or the focus away from the idea of looking at other options. I mean, I for one actually I don't even at all look at SETI anymore in any kind of interesting way. It's just I just scoff every time I hear it because of the.
I'm just wondering, they control the. I'd like to ask, we're on a radio show, if there's people listening out there that have a link to a really good radio telescope and somebody who can have permission just to focus on 3 targets and set it up with good amplification and do a recording of what kind of noise is coming from that star. With the hiss, you pick up a little bit of normal natural hiss, and then we can probably with really good computers go into that hiss and look for something in the hiss.
Yeah.
If anybody knows a way of doing that, a university or a link or an astronomer, I've failed. I'll tell you what, I've, as an amateur astronomer, I've tried all kinds of people. And the moment you talk about looking for a UFO kind of alien kind of link story, the wall comes up straight away.
Really? Yeah. So I mean, what are let's say that someone actually is listening to this and actually have some kind of access to this, but decides to, I don't know do it on their own and don't tell anything about it. What should they look for? What kind of frequency? What's happening there?
Yeah, I think anybody who knows a bit about radio telescopes, there's ways of just tuning into different frequencies. Go into what we call the common radio spectrum on Earth for radios, telecommunications, that frequency, whatever it is in hertz, I think it's measured. Tune in there and listen and take a recording. We don't look for it now, but you get a really good digital recording of it, and I'm sure there are people out there that are sound engineers that can go in and look inside that and take out the noise, take out the hiss, and look for little rhythmic sounds or something in there that just shows a glimpse of advanced something, radio signal. How hard is that? Surely it's with a good amplifier and a good dish, a good amplifying dish, like the array that they have at the desert in the U.S. have these